Hello YouTubers, welcome to another presentation on how to build wealth. Well, last episode we discussed the difference between money and currency. Well, today we're going to talk about inflation. Inflation is the reason why currency loses so much. Alright, so what is inflation? So like we normally do, whenever we want to define something, we're going to go to the dictionary. And when we go to the dictionary, we find out that inflation is a general increase in price and fall in purchasing value of money. Well, I don't think this really defines what inflation is. I think those are more the consequences of inflation. So I dig down deeper and find out that inflation is an expansion of the money or currency supply. And as a consequence, you get a rise in price and the money or currency supply loses value. So the best way to really put this into motion is let's just go ahead and give a couple of examples here of inflation. For me to really give an example of inflation, I had to go ahead and create my own country. So I have a country here before inflation. It's a small little island. I decided to call it Zucala. It's my island, so I can call it whatever I want. And this is the best name I can come up with. And in my island right now, I decided to use currency. I don't want to use money, and I call the currency supply cuckoo because I think cuckoo sounds cool. And right now in my country, I have a currency supply of about 1,000,000 cuckoo. So when the island started, and I decided to print just 1,000,000 cuckoo, and this is my currency supply right now in my island called Zucala. It's pretty simple, really. So one day I decided my country is pretty poor, and to help my people out, I'm gonna just go ahead and inflate my currency supply. What that mean is I'm gonna expand the currency supply, mean that I'm gonna end up having to print more money. So when I do that, I didn't change the name of the island, it still remains Zucala. I didn't change the money supply, I'm still using cuckoo. But what I decided to do, I decided to double the amount of currency that I was using. So now instead of having just 1,000,000 cuckoo, now we have 2,000,000 cuckoo. Well, that's inflation. It doesn't matter of the reason you decided to increase that currency supply. The act of increasing my currency supply from 1,000,000 to 2,000,000 is inflation. So I added 1,000,000 to inflation. Okay. Now you might be thinking, well, what's wrong with this? This is awesome. You just decided to raise your currency supply. You're helping people. You're giving people enough currency. Let's have a quick recap real quick. We know that inflation is the expansion of the money and currency supply. But we also know that the consequences for that is going to be a rise in price, and the money or currency that we're using going to lose value. So yes, I just decided to print money and give it away to people, but that's going to cause prices to rise, and the money supply is going to lose value. How is that going to happen? What's the connection between inflation and prices? Well, inflation affects price through a concept called supply and demand. Now, for those of you who doesn't know what supply and demand is, we're just gonna go back to the dictionary and try to put a handle, a definition on what supply and demand is. When we go to the definition, to the dictionary, the definition for supply and demand is the amount of a commodity, product, or service available and the desire of buyer for it, considers as factor regulating its price. Now, this definition is a little bit eerie, but it's a good one, so I'm gonna break it down a little bit to make some sense of it. So what I did is I take supply by itself, and that's kind of the first part of the definition. So supply is the amount of commodity, product, or service you have available. Now, for you to really understand this, you're gonna have to spend some time and kind of describe it real quick as anything you want. As, like, for example, let's say that you have wheat or milk as an example, right? There is only a limited amount of that supply you can have. You don't have unlimited amount of it, because if you are growing wheat, you only have certain amount of land that you can put, produce on. If you are getting milk, there's only a certain amount of cow that you can milk to produce the milk. So therefore, supply is very limited. That's a very important concept for you to understand. And then you have demand. Demand is the second part of the definition, which is the amount of buyers who want to buy this commodity, product, or service that you are producing. And what's gonna really impact this real quick is gonna be the price. Well, the price is gonna act like almost like a balance, a scale, to define whether the people who want to buy the supply actually get it. Because you see, just because you want something doesn't mean you can actually go and buy it, because you might think it's too expensive. If something is too expensive, it's not worth the money, you're not gonna buy it no matter how much you want it. Now, if it's too cheap, everybody's gonna be able to buy it, then you're gonna run out of that supply. So that's a very important concept to understand. Price play a very big factor when you're looking at supply and demand. So let's go ahead and give a quick example of this here. So for supply, let's say that I wanted to do the production of milk. Okay, so in the island, like we said, it's a small island, that I created, and let's say for the sake of argument, I only have 10 cows on the island, right? So those 10 cows, let's say they can only produce 20 gallons of milk per day. Well, we have 7 days, 7 times 20, we get 140. So that means that the entire supply of milk that I can create per week, it's only 140 gallons, all right? Now let's go to the demand side for a little bit. Now let's say that throughout the entire island, I have 300 islanders who want to buy milk. Well, it doesn't matter, only 140 of them can buy the milk. So the only thing that's gonna regulate whether they get milk or not, it's gonna be the price. And the price in economics, they call it the equilibrium price. It's what's going to be the happy medium, the regulator that's going to decide who can afford the milk, who's going to buy the milk, and who's going to consume it. So that's what the equilibrium price is. Price play a very big factor on decide which 140 islanders going to be able to buy the milk. All right. Now remember, that was before inflation. Now I just went and inflated my entire currency supply. Well, when I inflated the currency supply, I just gave the islanders, whoever they were, money. I didn't care about the circumstances. I just divided them on the island, an extra million cuckoo, just go ahead and buy whatever you want. So out of that, for my supply, I didn't do anything to increase it. So for the production of milk, I still only have 10 cow on the island that can only produce 20 gallons of milk per day, which still give me the same amount of 140 gallons per week. Nothing has changed on my supply. However, for my demand, I had 300 people who wanted to buy milk. Now, it doesn't matter, I cannot get 300 islanders milk because I only have 140 gallons. So still, only 140 islanders will be able to buy the milk. But the problem that's going to create is people who didn't have enough money, the three cuckoo, to buy milk before, now gonna have the three cuckoo to buy the milk. So when that happens, I'm gonna have a big shortage of milk. And the people who can pay more for milk before the milk go out, they're gonna say, I'm willing to pay more for the milk because not only they got extra money, they were able to afford it before, they're just gonna go ahead and pay more for this. So as a result, the equilibrium price for milk is gonna jump from the 3 cuckoos that they were before all the way to 6 cuckoo. So therefore, I did not help the situation. I just made it worse because now instead of having a price of 3, you're gonna have a price of 6. Now, there is also mathematical way to calculate this. I didn't go into this because I didn't want to do math. Not a lot of people like to do math, and I'm trying to do something for everybody here, so I choose to use logic. But again, this is something that can easily be calculated and have the same result. All right. So me inflating my currency supply did not help any islanders because I only have 140 gallons of milk per week to supply. And doesn't matter how much money I give to everybody, only 140 islanders are going to be able to buy that supply. So inflation does not work in this situation or in any situation because they're not going to have enough supply to go around to help everybody. But that's not the only part that inflation hurt. Inflation also hurt society in a big way. You see, let's say that I wanted to control who I gave this money to instead of pointing the 1 million cuckoos like I did before and just give it to everybody else. Let's say that I went and find out exactly who voted for me and said, I'm only gonna give those people more money. So by me doing this, I found out that 60% of the population voted for me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give only to those 60% of the people who voted for me those extra currency that I just decided to point it. So those people, they're gonna get richer, not just because I'm gonna give them extra currency, but because when the higher prices come into play, they're gonna be able to absorb that shock. You see, they're gonna be able to prepare for it. They have extra currency that they had for free to just pay for that higher prices when it comes to play. But those other 40% of the population that didn't vote for me, well, they're not going to remain the same. Life's going to be a lot harder for them because you see, they're going to get a lot poorer because not only they didn't get any extra currency that I just pointed to inflation, but their price is going to go even higher. So that means that if they had 20 cuckoo to buy 10 items for the week, well, now they can only buy 5 items because price for everything across the board, not just for milk, is gonna get more expensive. So I just hurt 40% of the population of the country really, really, really bad. So inflation allowed me to control who get richer and who get poorer. So if I want someone to get richer, I just go to inflation and give that person money, and they're gonna go richer in two ways: by the money I get them, and the higher prices that I'm gonna create is gonna affect everybody else, and everybody else gonna pay the price by becoming poorer because I want to help only a group of people. So that's a very important thing to understand as why currency does not work. You need real money to be able to sustain yourself. With me saying this, you might ask yourself, well, what about money, real money, gold, silver, and Bitcoin? Can those get inflated, or is it just currency that can get inflated? Well, unfortunately, yes, gold, silver, and Bitcoin can also get inflated, but they are being inflated through mining. You see, I cannot just decide to just create more gold out of thin air. That's not gonna work. They have to mine. It's countless hard work for you to get gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Um, Bitcoin is more power than mining, but they still call it mining. So that kind of works. So it's very different. Whereas currency, well, currency, I can just point it out. I just decided to go to a pointer and says, well, give me that amount. I don't have to do any work for it. I just decide. So this is why currency is bad, because there is no amount that can be, no one can stop me from pointing unlimited amount of currency. And the more currency that I point, the poorer everybody will get, and the higher prices become. So as a conclusion, let's do a quick recap on what we so for a recap, we know that inflation is an expansion of the money supply. And as the money supply expands, the consequences is you get a higher price or your money currency supply loses value. Inflation affects price through supply and demand, and also can affect society because whoever has control to the currency can decide who get richer and who get poorer. And the last thing that we learn about money inflation is, yes, both money and currency can be inflated, but money inflation is controlled by nature. However, currency inflation is controlled by men and it's unlimited. And that's a big, big problem. So on the next presentation, I'm going to be discussing how real currency, the US dollar, get inflated. And you'll be surprised to know the answer. It's not just the Fed who are inflating our currency supply. So if you have not subscribed yet, please take a moment and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can be the first to know what the answer is. And if you like this video, please put a thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, something I need to do better, please go in the comment section and let me know what that is, and I'll be sure to fix it and update it and help me get better, help you get better. So until next time.